Right now on Up with KREM, it'll be another busy day on the roads as people head out for Memorial Day weekend. We have a look at the impact of high gas prices.
Plus, I'm tracking your weather forecast as we continue to trend warm with some of the warmest temperatures of the week so far today.
Plus, with tens of thousands of people expected to make the move to Spokane in the next 20 years, the city is now updating its plan for growth. Hi there, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for starting your morning here with us on Up with KREM. I'm Brandon T. Jones. Lots of stories we'll get to here in just a few moments, but we want to start first with Jenny Power. She's standing by in the Weather Center right now. And Jenny, what's the weather been like this week? I got to think on it for a second here. It's been a little bit of kind of chill vibes for the most part. Is that right? And then what can we expect as we head into the weekend?
That is totally right, Brandon. Yeah, and we could trend even warmer here. So, I mean, for all the folks that want to get outside, enjoy the inland Northwest for Memorial Day weekend, things are looking pretty decent. In fact, today is anticipated to be our warmest day here out of the weekend, as we'll be well up into the upper 70s to low 80s. This is above average. But the one thing to note is that we are going to see some breezy winds. So we do just have the risk of some elevated fire weather danger possible. Keep that in mind, especially if you are camping, but daytime highs across the region. I mean, we're looking at some mid 80s in central Washington. 87 is the high for Moses Lake, some low 90s south to Richland and the Tri-Cities. But even though we are seeing these warmer temperatures, it's going to be really tempting to get out near the lake or the rivers. However, it is still very early on in the season. So even though our air temperatures are warm, our water temperatures are cold. Lake Coeur d'Alene has been only in the mid 50s. So if you do plan to be out near the water, make sure that you're wearing your life jacket and know that the water is also running fast. We see a gradual clearing trend through the rest of this afternoon here with plenty of sunshine in store. But a look at how those breezy winds could potentially impact your outdoor plans. That's coming up in my extended forecast. Brandon?
And since it is Memorial Day weekend, if you're traveling anywhere, you're going to have lots of company. AAA says 45 million Americans expected to travel here this weekend, and those numbers represent a small increase in travel compared to 44.8 million people who traveled at the same time last year. Of course, gas prices are a big concern right now. Prices are about $1.40 higher per gallon versus 1 year ago. But even with those high gas prices, AAA still expects an increase in overall travel, at least for now.
The reason for that is, keep in mind, a lot of us were booking our hotels, our airfare, well before a lot of these issues happened. So as we start looking towards the 4th of July, we might see a sizable bump in some costs. Everything from jet fuel to gasoline to diesel, all those different things that are affected by these exorbitantly high crude oil prices that everybody's dealing with.
And before you hit the road, a friendly reminder, AAA says check those car batteries, your engine, and your tires. That's going to help ensure you have some safe travels. Well, if you're headed to the Seattle area this weekend, expect some extra cars, but overall traffic shouldn't be too bad. This chart from WashDOT shows the most traffik in Snoqualmie Pass is expected between 11 this morning and 2 in the afternoon. And for people making the trip to eastern Washington, traffic will be much worse. Just look at all this red right here on this chart on your screens. WashDOT is telling drivers to expect backups from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. today. Well, several events are planned to mark Memorial Day. This morning, it's the Race to Remember 5K. Runners and walkers are gathered at Fairmount Memorial Park for the event. It features a course lined with over 1,800 American flags. The opening ceremony also features a bagpiper and honor guard tribute. The race benefits the group Beyond the Call of Duty, which supports families of fallen first responders and veterans. Well, Idaho's housing growth rate is leading the entire nation. Housing units increased by 2.1% in 2025, and this is the second consecutive year Idaho has had the fastest growth rate. The state added more than 17,000 housing units just last year, and over the past 5 years, Idaho increased its housing by 12.3% with more than 93,000 1,000 new places to live. Meantime, Spokane city leaders estimate 20,000 people will make the move to the Lilac City between now and 2046. KREM 2's Connor McAvoy shares the steps City Council is taking to shape the city's growth over the next 20 years.
Prepared to vote.
With a 6-to-1 vote, Spokane City Council adopted a resolution approving the Preferred Alternative Growth Map as part of the city's Plan Spokane 2046 update. The design came after council and other city staff looked at 3 designs named Alternatives 1, 2, and 3. Council adopted a hybrid map combining priorities of 2 and 3, focusing on effective transit routes as well as downtown growth and employment hubs near Hilliard and the West Plains. The map will guide staff as they develop a future land use plan for the city's comprehensive plan update.
I'm interested in it, but I had a hard time finding much on it.
Folks like Larry Andrews addressed the council before the vote. He supports the map but says the city should do more.
I think we should be going out to people in the city and businesses and talking about this plan for everybody that it's going to affect, which is all of us.
Councilmember Kate Tellis says the information is out there.
I'd want to encourage everyone to go to planspokane.com.
While agreeing communication is key.
One of the hardest parts of doing this job is adequately communicating with the public.
The Preferred Alternative Map identifies areas where future housing, business development, and infrastructure growth could be concentrated through 2046. The resolution does not immediately change zoning or authorize development projects, but it does set the direction for future land use decisions as the city continues work on its long-term comprehensive plan update, an issue causing Councilmember Michael Cathcart to vote against it.
We don't have some of those underlying pieces that would give us a fuller view, which I think is important and frankly would be very educational for the public.
Despite the opposition, Councilmember Paul Dillon says the goal now that the resolution is passed is to prepare for population growth while encouraging development near existing services, transit routes, and commercial centers.
All right, with a long weekend here, if you're still looking for something to do this weekend, we've got you covered in the weekend What's Up. And first up, bring on the fun at Spring Fest in Moses Lake this weekend. There's 3-on-3 basketball, a carnival, car shows, live music, a parade, and free entertainment. Next up, the Spokane Children's Theater is opening Shrek the Musical this weekend. If you don't know, the musical is based on the hit DreamWorks film that follows a grumpy and lovable ogre. It runs until June 7th. And the second annual Show and Shine car show for ARS is today. It supports assisted residential services. It's an afternoon of fun with food, vehicles, games, and awards. Cars can roll in at 10 a.m. and the show starts at 11. Next up, the Bayview Community Council is hosting a community-wide yard sale today. It's open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and there are generally about 20 homes having yard sales as well as stuff for sale at the community center. You can pick up a map of all of the yard sales at the Bayview Community Center. Another fun one right here, the route of the Hiawatha is open for the season. The 15-mile trail runs through the Bitterroot Mountains, goes through 10 tunnels and 7 sky-high trestles. You can book a reservation on their website, ridethehiawatha.com. Alrighty, and still ahead here on Up with KREM, images taken moments before the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Now, a new documentary is shedding light on the photographer who captured history in his final moments. And Idaho coroners are calling for better investigation into the deaths of infants, why they hope it could help save lives. Well, this past week marked 46 years since Mount St. Helens erupted. Caught in the blast was a nature photographer from Portland. His story and the images he captured before his death are the focus of a new documentary.
4 photos that captured a devastating moment in time.
He gracefully understood what was happening and took the time to preserve those photos.
Those 4 photos and the photographer, now the subject of a new documentary.
And I think there's probably people out there like me that have just heard this one part of the story and wanted to know more about who Robert Landsberg was and know more about this story. And so, this film will answer some of those questions.
It's called 8:32 a.m., the last photographs of Robert Landsberg.
It's amazing that this survived a volcanic eruption. You can see ash that's inside the lens.
Following a series of earthquakes.
46 years ago, as the earth beneath Mount St. Helens began to rumble and the mountain erupted, Portland nature photographer Robert Landsberg was there, taking photos and jotting down notes.
My Uncle Bob always had a camera, wildlife photography.
He was thought to be in a safe zone. He wasn't necessarily being overly, dangerous by being where he was.
Mark Evans is a documentary filmmaker. He's produced several documentaries, but never before on the eruption of Mount St. Helens. He says he first heard about Landsberg's story last fall.
At first, what I wanted to know is I want to know more about this Robert Landsberg and more about this story. And there was nothing else out there.
After the mountain erupted, Landsberg quickly shielded his camera from the onslaught of ash. His camera survived, as did these 4 photos that would later get developed.
It was always his dream to be a National Geographic photographer.
Landsberg would be one of more than 50 people to die that day. And it's a story and a life lost that little is known about, one the family has never shared before.
It's always such a great responsibility as a storyteller, as a documentary filmmaker, to do the right thing, and to tell the story that does honor the story that you're trying to tell.
Landsberg's dream of becoming a National Geographic photographer wouldn't come true until months after his death. A 2-page spread featured in the January 1981 edition.
And coming up, I've got everything you need to know about your Memorial Day weekend forecast.
Summer is quickly approaching, and it's also Memorial Day weekend. It's also grilling season. I'm in the KREM 2 Outdoor Weather Center right now, and if your grill has been left untouched for the last year like ours has, now is the time to fire it up. Consumer Reports says before you fire up the grill though, you should check for some common problems before you start grilling. Experts recommend checking your propane lines with soap and water. If you see any bubbles, that could be a sign of trouble. They also say to check inside your grill for spider webs. Look at all these. This hasn't been touched in a while. These spider webs can clog your burners. And for charcoal grills, you're gonna wanna check for old ash and inspect the vents, and don't forget to use fresh charcoal. And I forgot, for all grills, you wanna be sure to clean the grates. You should use a bristle-free brush. Don't use this one. This is no longer okay because these are actually pretty dangerous. I personally like to just use a wet rag. Then you'll want to use a high smoke point oil like canola. Finally, ignite the grill and let it run for about 15 or 30 minutes. This will not only help clean the grill, but it will also clean off any leftover debris. Finally, be sure to have a fire extinguisher or a water source nearby, and be sure to check the rules in your area. Happy grilling season, everyone.
Let's get a look at your forecast here on this Saturday. What we're seeing across the region are some of the warmest temperatures of the weekend. So it's going to be nice if you do plan to be outside. We'll be trending sunny and dry. But the one thing to note is that we are watching out for some breezy winds, especially through central Washington. And so with that, we are going to see some elevated fire risk. Just be aware of it, especially for folks that might have camping plans or you're doing some outdoor recreation. Temperatures this afternoon trending in the upper 70s across Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. So even a little bit warmer than where we were at yesterday. Upper 80s for Moses Lake, low 90s for Richland there in the Tri-Cities. 84 is the high for Walla Walla, with some mid 70s up toward Bonners Ferry and Sandpoint, Idaho. Now, it is this time of year here where people want to be tempted to get out into the water and the lakes, but Lake Coeur d'Alene has been seeing temperatures in the mid 50s. So it's important to practice cold water safety. If you are going to be near the water, wear a life jacket and know that the currents are running fast. Future tracker for you. We did see some clouds here earlier this morning. Those are going to clear out, giving way to some nice sunshine. Clear through this evening, decent overnight tonight, and then Sunday we're going to also be waking up to some nice sunshine. Gradually some increasing clouds, but overall hanging on to this dry weather pattern. Here's some of those breezy winds that are though going to be picking up this afternoon. Gusts are going to be about 25 to 40 miles per hour possible, with dry conditions, humidity percentage between 15 to 25%. So that's why we see the potential for some elevated fire risk. The winds died down overnight tonight, but then Sunday they are going to pick back up. So we've got a couple of days here where it's going to be a bit breezy. Overnight tonight, we fall to the low 50s for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, upper 40s out toward Chelan, 52 tonight for Moses Lake, some upper 40s down toward Pullman, low 50s for Moscow. As we take a look at what's to come, we hang on to these nice conditions. As far as what we're seeing on Memorial Day itself, the storm chances are kind of backing off. So what we're seeing are still warm daytime highs on Monday. If you do have outdoor plans to commemorate the day, things are looking a little bit better because the chances for some storms actually arrive for us later Monday night into Tuesday. So that's kind of the outlook that we're preparing you for. We are, though, going to be trending much cooler and a bit more unsettled by the middle of next week. So another reason why you should really just try to get outside and enjoy some of these nicer conditions that we are seeing for this Memorial Day weekend.
Well, May is Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we've been celebrating those making an impact right here in the Inland Northwest. Our very own Tim Pham and Jenny Power sat down in our KREM 2 streaming studio to share what Asian American culture means to them. Go ahead, take a look.
Speaking of food, I've been my stomach is literally growling. Hopefully this mic didn't pick it up. We have some food here in our studio. Jenny, you made this. Tell us about this dish.
Yes, I did. So I'm half Filipino, half Caucasian. And so this is some lumpia that I made, which if you have a Filipino person in your life, you know this is like one of our staples for eating. So I did have to bake it this morning. So it's not quite as crispy, but this is really how I relate to my culture. You know, all growing up, my dad is Filipino and he taught me how to roll lumpia. And if you've never rolled lumpia, it's quite the feat. Yes, please try it.
With my mouth full.
Yes, with the chili sauce. But it's quite the art form to kind of roll this lumpia. You know, it is truly made with so much love. It also takes a lot of labor because the wrapper is very thin and you have to make it really tight so that it doesn't come apart in the fryer.
The sweet chili sauce is everything.
The sweet chili sauce is just, a necessity for this. But I think that for so many cultures, you know, we relate to it through food, and that becomes like our comfort. And especially like what you were talking about, Tim, it's important that these things get passed down because if they're not passed down, they get just lost over the generations. So yeah, I have to write this down though because I only know about the filling seasoning by the color of like what it looks
You're like, Dad, help.
Exactly.
And okay, so back to this though. You don't have to give away the family secret, but what is your spin on it? Because you don't do it just like a traditional way. You kind of add your own little kick to it.
Yeah, that's true. And so many Filipino people are very passionate about, you know, their lumpia recipes. So I actually do a combination of half beef and half pork for the filling. And then I do some of the more traditional things like shredded carrot, celery, some turnip in there, garlic, and then just roll it up and deep fry it. Who doesn't like some
I know.
fried?
You say deep fried and I'm like, I'm in. No, but the pork and the beef, it's really nice. It adds a really nice flavor.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for pork and I love beef. And you put a good amount of meat in there. It's really delicious.
Yes. That's the other thing too that I like to favor for my lumpia is that it's a little bit thicker. Because some people like a thinner lumpia, so it's like really crispy, but I like it where it's a little meatier.
Totally.
So, yeah.
My goodness.
But what about you, Tim? Because you have such a strong tie with your culture and heritage.
Yes. So my family actually has a really cool connection to the Inland Northwest. My family immigrated to the United States to Spokane.
Oh, wow.
So my grandfather, he actually brought our family over to America. We were sponsored by the Jehovah's Witness Church out of Bonners Ferry, Idaho.
Oh, my goodness.
And so my family came over with one bag each, and my grandfather's suitcase, instead of airport tag on your bag where it says GEG on a tag, they just took a Sharpie and wrote GEG on my grandfather's suitcase, and I found it in my grandma's garage. I was like, GEG? I know GEG. That's Spokane International.
Right.
So it's cool that we still have that, but that's where our American story began.
And you can watch our hour-long special right now on the KREM 2 app or by texting Heritage to 509-448-2000. All right, still ahead here on Up with KREM. Gas prices are high right now, but that's not the only expensive thing when it comes to driving. We have a look at the rising costs of owning a car coming up next. Ahead on Up with KREM, Idaho coroners looking to save lives, why they're calling for more death investigations. Plus, gas is just the beginning when it comes to the cost of owning a car. We take a closer look at all the other things you could be paying for. And the sun is shining, so it's a great time to check out beautiful Green Bluff. We have a look at what you can expect this opening weekend. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Up with KREM. I'm Brandon T. Jones, and over in the Weather Center, we've got Jenny Power. And Jenny, it's a busy Memorial Day weekend, so what do we have in store in terms of the weather?
Yeah, well, as far as the weather goes, Brandon, I mean, we are sitting pretty good when it comes to what you can expect for Memorial Day weekend. In fact, today, we're even looking at some of the warmest temperatures of the entire weekend. So if you do want to get outside, I do recommend enjoying it. The one thing to know, though, is that we are going to see some breezy afternoon winds. And for people that might be camping, we are seeing the risk here of some elevated fire weather conditions. So make sure you're checking your local burn restrictions if you do plan to be outside. But across the region here, I mean, we're in the upper 70s for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene this afternoon, 84 for Walla Walla, low 90s for Richland and the Tri-Cities, with some mid-80s out towards central Washington. But even though our air temperatures, I should say, are warm, it's going to be really tempting to get outside, maybe in some of our local lakes or rivers, but our water temperatures have still been very cold here. It's early on in the season. Lake Coeur d'Alene has only been about in the mid-50s. So if you do plan on being near the water today, make sure you're wearing the life jacket and know that the water is running fast. We've got a gradual clearing trend, though, through this afternoon with a good amount of sunshine. However, as we continue to move forward, I'm also tracking, again, those breezy winds, how that could potentially impact your plans if you plan to be outside today and tomorrow. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, we know a lot of people will be getting out on the water this weekend, and the Coast Guard is reminding people to stay safe. So here's what you can do. First of all, wear a life jacket. Each year, 75% of boating deaths are due to drowning, and 87% of those were not wearing life jackets. Also, be sure to check the weather. You don't want to get caught in the middle of a thunderstorm out on the middle of the lake. So if you're going in the water, be aware it is also still very cold, as Jenny mentioned. You just make sure you have the right clothing. You should be good. And finally, never boat under the influence. Alcohol is the leading contributing factor to deadly boating incidents. Well, with warm and dry conditions already here, Avista is making changes to reduce wildfire risk. This week, the utility announced it was moving into fire safety mode in both Washington and Idaho. The mode modifies how Avista's system reacts to faults like a tree branch hitting a power line. The standard procedure would have the power line automatically try to re-energize, but with this new mode, it now requires a physical inspection before the line can be turned back on. This also means it could take longer to get power restored. Well, more than 100 infants died in Idaho in 2020, and coroners say investigating those deaths thoroughly can help save lives. This week, a special training was held in Coeur d'Alene. Abby Wilt takes a closer look at why these required cases require such intensive investigations and the changes coroners say are needed.
Being able to give him answers and help him is important.
It's a number that's hard to hear.
They're not common, but they're not uncommon.
In 2020, 109 infants died in Idaho. That's according to the World Population Review's latest data.
We routinely will see infant deaths coming through our office every other week or so.
And those deaths are something Ada County Chief Deputy Coroner Brett Harding says need to continue to be thoroughly investigated.
Infant death investigations are the most difficult investigation there is.
He says one of the reasons these investigations are difficult is because the investigation usually starts at home and ends in the hospital. That creates two different scenes for coroners to investigate. With other coroner investigations, Harding says the home isn't tested as thoroughly as it is with infant deaths.
Sometimes it is difficult to get the information that our pathologists need to come to a correct conclusion or a definitive conclusion.
Harding says infants also require more extreme testing, especially if the cause of death is unknown.
And then the testing that goes in with infant deaths is very intensive, because we do blood tests, we do cultures, we do genetic testing to bring every possibility to light that could have caused that child's death.
And what's unique, Harding says, is that sometimes an infant death can prevent other deaths from happening in the same home, making the investigation even more important.
Because if you don't identify risk factors for that child's death, then, and the parents aren't educated on that, if they have another child, that same child could be put in that unsafe sleep environment and they too could die.
But in Idaho, coroners don't need any type of qualification to be in office. That's something Harding says is highly problematic.
Because not only does the coroner have to determine cause and manner of death, but they also have a large public health component to them, to which can affect the living as well as the dead.
That's why he's hosting trainings in Ada County, Idaho Falls, and Coeur d'Alene this year to help educate coroners on specifically how to investigate an infant death.
Also, we are going to explain to coroners, to law enforcement, to firefighters, why these also need to be done and why their information can be critical in determining why a child died. So this is going to be an education for the professionals that respond to infant deaths, and then through educating them, when they have an infant death, they'll be able to educate the public, the parents, or caregivers for infants that had died.
Harding says many families don't realize how extensive these cases can be unless they're walked through the process after a tragedy.
If they suffer a loss like that, they need to know that their coroner has certain things that they need to do to try to identify why that child died.
And at the end of the day, while nothing can bring an infant back, Harding says what they can do is provide answers so preventable tragedy doesn't happen again.
Because I saw what we did for families and how the answers that we gave them affected their lives and helped them in the worst scenario that they were going through. It's a tragic moment, but we were able to give them answers.
Well, let's go ahead now and take a look at the top stories on KREM.com this past week. First up, a judge sentenced Caleb Carter for shooting and killing 42-year-old Joshua Payne in a road rage incident back in 2024 in the Garland district. Prosecutors said Carter jumped out of his car and immediately shot at Payne, hitting him 9 times. Payne's family gave emotional statements in court before the judge handed down the sentence.
The cruelty, violence, and intentional nature of this crime demand accountability that reflects the true horror of what has occurred.
My husband murdered in broad daylight by a complete stranger who showed no regard for human life.
Well, after 29 testimonies from family and friends, the judge sentenced Caleb Carter to 28 years in prison on first-degree murder. Top story number 2, the trial for Cynthia Khalil, a Spokane woman accused of killing her ex-boyfriend, was delayed after her attorneys did not appear in court. Court documents show one public defender has been on family and medical leave since the end of April. The second attorney requested FMLA the day before the trial was scheduled to begin.
When we hear that a defense attorney can take off 3 days before trial with no explanation, no reason.
It's shocking. It's embarrassing to the legal community. It's unfortunate for Ms. Khalil, who is once again sitting here ready for trial.
The judge says a trial date is now set for June 15th and denied the public defender that was in the courtroom this week will be filling in for counsel for the time being. Well, take a look at this. We are happy to report everyone is okay after a scary mid-air collision between two fighter jets at an air show near Boise. The 2 jets involved were Navy Growlers from Whidbey Island, Washington. And officials say all 4 crew members involved ejected and were able to parachute to safety. Military crews worked to recover the wreckage early this week and are investigating what caused the crash. Or for more on these stories and the other local news, go ahead and check out the KREM 2 app. You can use that QR code right there on your screen and get alerts to your phone when breaking news happens. So again, download the app, use that QR code, and you get all of the latest updates. Well, as the busy summer driving season kicks off, it's not just gas prices that are adding up. Owning and maintaining a car is taking a greater toll on budgets, and Karen Kafia crunches the numbers.
Beyond skyrocketing gas prices due to the war in Iran, the cost of car ownership is consuming a growing share of household budgets. Recent analysis by LendingTree found loan payments are the greatest burden, followed by insurance, gas, and maintenance.
With the cost of gas and maintenance and insurance and the sticker price of the car itself, all those rising prices are making things even less affordable than they were.
Americans added $18 billion in auto loan debt during the first 3 months of the year, carrying a record $1.69 trillion, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. April government inflation data showed a 28.4% increase in gasoline prices year over year, but also a 4% climb in tire prices and a just over 5% jump for motor vehicle repair. Meanwhile, LendingTree finds insurance costs have surged 37.5% since 2021. Matt Schultz, LendingTree chief consumer finance analyst, says the rise in costs is a cause for concern for many households.
For an awful lot of Americans, their car, their vehicle is their lifeline to their job. And if they don't have that transportation, things get really challenging for them.
And there are concerns that the war in Iran could spark another shortage for drivers. The shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz and damage to Middle East facilities could crunch supply of some of the most popular kinds of motor oil. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Well, saving for college can feel overwhelming. So up next, we're breaking down 529 plans, what they are, how they work, and why now is a good time to get started saving. And we know some of you are tuning in on KSKN 22 this morning. Just a heads up, you can watch our weekend show from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Saturday and Sunday on the KREM 2 app. It's free to download on your TV.
Well, we have a special guest with us here today. We have John Maroney, the Financial Engagement Manager with Numerica. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
John, we want to talk about something upcoming this week. On 529, it's very fitting, is WA 529 Day, right? Tell us, what is WA 529?
Yeah, well, you know, in the financial services industry, we have some random holidays that we like to celebrate. And 529 Day, May 29th, is when we like to highlight 529 investment accounts, which are options for parents, grandparents, et cetera, to begin to save money to pay for education expenses for their kiddos or their grandkids. And so it's a great time to be thinking about that, especially, you know, we're in the midst of graduation season. So lots of people are thinking about what's the next step in my educational journey. And so that's what we're highlighting.
Totally, yeah, you're right. This time of year, that's kind of top of mind for a lot of people. And thinking about the cost of college in today's financial world, it's kind of daunting. It's expensive.
Yeah, it can feel very intimidating for folks. And there are lots of different ways to kind of slice and dice bringing those costs down. But one of the best things that parents can do now, especially if you have a younger kiddo, is begin to invest for that future education expense in a 529 plan. And we have some really excellent options in Washington State where folks can do that.
So tell us, what does that look like? How much are we talking about to start if you're just getting started? Maybe you have a toddler, or maybe you have a 10-year-old right now. Where is a good place to start, and what does that contribution look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think about this a lot because I have a 5-year-old. My daughter Mila is in kindergarten. We started her 529 when she was 3.
Okay.
And we started out just doing $100 a month.
Okay.
And it's built up pretty significantly. Like right now, she has about $10,000 in her 529 just through those contributions and then the investment growth that has gone with it. And so people often feel like, oh, I have this big major expense in front of me. almost like it's a mountain that they have to climb over.
Sure.
And how am I going to do that? Small moves that are made early can have a really big difference. And so even if you can start out with $25 to $50 a month, that can actually really add up for folks. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also want to ask you about New America's resources too, because part of 529 Day, you guys are promoting some of the education around this. What are some ways that people can get involved, reach out to you or someone at New America about maybe starting a 529 account?
Sure. Yeah. So our New America Financial Services, which is kind of the investment portion of our credit union, handles those 529 plans. A lot of people are going to be well served by going onto the Washington 529 plan website. It's wa529.gov. And that has kind of the two different plan options that we have here. We have the GET plan, which is the Guaranteed Education Tuition Plan, and then the Invest plan. And the GET plan is where you're kind of buying credits at a Washington university. And what they do is they look at the most expensive university in Washington State, which is UW in Seattle. And so you're buying tuitions at today's prices. And so like you referenced earlier, education expenses have gone up. So you're locking in today's prices, and then your student can use those regardless of what state school they go to, or even if they go out of state or to a private.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. I think some people who may know this program through growing up, like for me, I thought it was only for in-state, but you're telling me that you can actually use credits out of state and even internationally?
You can, yes. And so there is kind of a formula by which they'll transfer the value of those Washington state credits that you're buying to out of state, to privates. If you think that your kiddo is going to go to a state institution, and I know that sometimes that's hard to project, the GET plan may be a really good option for you.
Okay.
But if you're thinking you want more flexibility, they have the Invest option, which has some preset investment portfolios based on your risk level you want to take on. And that is ultimate flexibility because it's just dollars. And so that's what we do with our daughter, is because we're not quite sure what she's going to do. My wife works at a private university that we may send her to. And so that gives you a little bit more flexibility. So you kind of have two different options.
All right. Well, John, thanks so much for being here. We'll put John's email on the screen. If you have any questions, you can reach out. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, you may want to head to Green Bluff. We have a look at what they have planned for opening weekend. Plus, the Spokane Velocity are back in action this weekend at One Spokane Stadium. They're hosting the Sarasota Paradise. And we want to let you know, if you can't make it to the game, KSKN 22 is the spot to watch the game, and we'll air it on TV for you. Kickoff is set at 4 tomorrow afternoon. Alrighty, folks, what a great time of the year and what a place to be. Green Bluff, Washington, it's beautiful every time you make a trip out here, and we've got good people with us. Todd Beck from Beck's Harvest House. Big weekend here for you guys because officially open up for the season, huh?
Yep, this is our kickoff for 2026.
Yeah.
We are now open every day, except for Tuesdays, all summer long, all the way through Halloween. And the crops look great, and I think we're going to have a great summer, and we hope everyone comes out and sees us.
It really is looking good out here. And what is that like as you get open for the new season? I know a lot of people, they make family memories here every single year.
It's a great family tradition to come out here and enjoy live music and some great food and produce and just enjoy a day in the country. Get away from the city and the fast-paced life and come and enjoy a little relaxation up here on the bluff.
Well, that's my favorite part about it, is just listening to the birds, having just that beautiful fresh air you can inhale a little bit. And then since we've got you here, Todd, you know, there's also a big thing that's happening here in a couple of months, right? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, it's a little ways away, but Labor Day weekend, we're doing Stuffed on the Bluff. We want everyone to kind of put it in their calendar and think about it, but it's going to be a brand new food and music festival. And we're going to have a great time on Labor Day up here all 3 days. Lots of music, lots of food. It's going to be, you won't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, sir. Well, with a name like Stuffed on the Bluff, you already know it's going to be a phenomenal time. So thank you again, Todd. We appreciate you.
Thanks for coming
hanging out with us. And a couple months away, but go ahead and mark it on your calendar, Stuffed on the Bluff. And before that, make sure you come out here as the new season officially open here at Beck's Harvest House.
Let's get a look at your forecast here on this Saturday. What we're seeing across the region are some of the warmest temperatures of the weekend. So it's going to be nice if you do plan to be outside. We'll be trending sunny and dry. But the one thing to note is that we are watching out for some breezy winds, especially through central Washington. And so with that, we are going to see some elevated fire risk. Just be aware of it, especially for folks that might have camping plans or you're doing some outdoor recreation. Temperatures this afternoon trending in the upper 70s across across Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. So even a little bit warmer than where we were at yesterday. Upper 80s for Moses Lake, low 90s for Richland there in the Tri-Cities. 84 is the high for Walla Walla, with some mid 70s up toward Bonners Ferry and Sandpoint, Idaho. Now, it is this time of year here where people want to be tempted to get out into the water and the lakes, but Lake Coeur d'Alene has been seeing temperatures in the mid 50s. So it's important to practice cold water safety. If you are going to be near the water, wear a life jacket and know that the currents are running fast. Future tracker for you. We did see some clouds here earlier this morning. Those are going to clear out, giving way to some nice sunshine. Clear through this evening, decent overnight tonight, and then Sunday we're going to also be waking up to some nice sunshine. Gradually some increasing clouds, but overall hanging on to this dry weather pattern. Here's some of those breezy winds that are though going to be picking up this afternoon. Gusts are going to be about 25 to 40 miles per hour possible, with dry conditions, humidity percentage between 15 to 25%. So that's why we see the potential for some elevated fire risk. The winds died down overnight tonight, but then Sunday they are going to pick back up. So we've got a couple of days here where it's going to be a bit breezy. Overnight tonight, we fall to the low 50s for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, upper 40s out toward Chelan, 52 tonight for Moses Lake, some upper 40s down toward Pullman, low 50s for Moscow. As we take a look at what's to come, we hang on to these nice conditions. As far as what we're seeing on Memorial Day itself, the storm chances are kind of backing off. So what we're seeing are still warm daytime highs on Monday. If you do have outdoor plans to commemorate the day, things are looking a little bit better because the chances for some storms actually arrive for us later Monday night into Tuesday. So that's kind of the outlook that we're preparing you for. We are, though, going to be trending much cooler and a bit more unsettled by the middle of next week. So another reason why you should really just try to get outside and enjoy some of these nicer conditions that we are seeing for this Memorial Day weekend. And a reminder, you can now stream our live local radar 24/7. This could be super helpful if you do plan to be outside a lot this weekend. It's free to download through the KREM 2 app, which you can have on both your TV or your phone.
Still ahead, Memorial Day weekend is the unofficial start of the summer movie season, but what's a movie without a little snack? We have a look at some new food options coming up next. All right, Jenny, so Memorial Day weekend is always considered the unofficial start of summer. So with that, that also means big blockbuster movies. And they always come out in the summer too, right?
Yes, yeah. So of course, one of the best parts about going to the movie is all the snacks and the candy.
Yeah.
Yes. So this week, AMC is actually rolling out some new food options that you could try. New items include the hot honey sausage pizza, street corn poppers, and popcorn chicken, as well as dill pickle Bavarian bites.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
I mean, they sound pretty good in theory, right? You know, it's more of a, I gotta see what it looks like in person, and then also, I gotta factor in, I might be spending at least like $150 at the movie theater after the time you buy all of this, right?
That is the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, going to the movies, it's expensive if you get these kinds of things. But are you popcorn? Butter, no butter?
Yeah, butter, salt, classic popcorn for me. I like that.
Cool. What
What's
about
your
go-to candy?
Go-to candy, Sour Patch Kids.
Ooh, okay.
Right.
So yeah, I am a popcorn, all the butter, extra butter, salt type of person. And then I always like Junior Mints.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I guess that factors or, cancels out the popcorn, huh?
Yep.
Give you a little bit more of a refresher. But yeah, I like that. And then I think actually, since they're talking about pizza, I think, why hasn't pizza been more of a thing in movie theaters? I feel like that's a good pizza.
Totally
pizza
is
and
a good
movies
thing.
go together. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think hot dogs are also a thing at movies, aren't they? Maybe?
I don't know, I gotta go.
Am I making that up?
I'm always trying to avoid all of the, the faces, because it's so expensive. But
it's true.
It's still a good time nonetheless. So.
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate you for tuning in this morning to Up with KREM. We've got more later in the day, and then of course back for Up with KREM on Sunday morning.
Have a good day, everybody.